Welcome back to the Beat 139. I'm Doc.
I'm Don Vito. How y'all doing? What's up? What up?
Um, I'm happy to be here. My name is Duke. Happy to be here. My name is Duke. K.A. Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
What up, K.A.? K.A. in the building.
What up, K.A.? So, K.A., tell everybody where you from, brother.
Once again, it's good. I'm glad to be here. I'm saying,
Glad to have you.
I'm originally from the Lower East Side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Born and raised in New York.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in the Lower East Side, Bronx area, in and out as a kid. Transplanting the Lower East Side, Bronx, Harlem, that whole little area as a kid in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much was from the Lower East Side, Bruce Projects, out from the city,
Right.
Avenue D, around there, pretty much in the late '80s, early '90s.
Mm-hmm.
How was it growing up in the neighborhood back then?
Again, I mean, we were on the same age, so we're talking about, I'm a '70s baby. I grew up in the very, very early '80s. I remember, very wide open drug markets.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Heroin, of course, back in the day, just a little before the crack era.
Right.
Crack era in New York City really didn't hit to about like '86,
Mm-hmm.
'87, around there. I'm talking a little bit earlier, like '83, '84, going up on the Lower East Side. It was the heroin trade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it was big. It was big. Back, how we used to joke back in the days, the cheese lines.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
You see
yeah.
the welfare cheese lines and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that was very, very prevalent in my neighborhood.
Right.
So I grew up with that influence, very heavy influence with that.
So, when you say you grew up in that influence, did you like get the interest of starting? Let me get some money or something.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't like to just come off as like, it's just a product of your environment, right? Because you grew up there, right?
Yeah.
So therefore you become what you see, right?
Right.
You become what you are, right? So, but unfortunately, that's exactly what it was. I grew up, and on my block specifically was a very dominant drug block. I mean, the neighborhood completely, right? And it wasn't demonized the way it is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about this in the '80s. You know what I mean? So it wasn't as bad as like you see it now with all the media campaigns directed towards saying drugs. It was very open. These guys who sold drugs, these young drug dealers, I grew up looking up to these dudes.
Right.
They were in the neighborhood. I knew them. You know what I mean? These were like, when you come from a small, close neighborhood, everybody's a cousin of a cousin of a cousin, so you know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? These dudes were cousins, uncles, friends, aunts. You know what I mean? People in the neighborhood that I've known my whole life. So it was easy for me to be introduced to it because it was all I saw. So of course I came out really wanting to get money. You know what I mean? Like learning very early on, like the mechanics of setting up a drug operation. You know what I mean? Because I started from the ground. I started as a lookout. You go look out on the corner. You know what I mean? It's down on the lookout. You know what I mean? Then I rose through all that. So I got to see a runner. I was a runner. I used to be in the house. I used to listen to dudes talk all the time. They used to take me places because I was very observant.
Right.
So I picked up a lot of it early on. So naturally, it was a natural extension for me to get into selling drugs at a very, very early age.
It's crazy because me coming from Harlem, I didn't really know nothing about Lower East Side when I was younger. When I got a little older, started going out, then I'm like, damn, there's a lot of projects down there.
Yeah, no, it was like that, definitely. Like, it's crazy because, but if you think about New York City, right? If you think about New York City, some people spend their whole life in a 10-block radius and never really know anything else, anywhere else, and it's like right across the bridge.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like literally, there's certain places, and you could be from Brooklyn, right? Well, now we know Brooklyn is changing, right? We look modern times now. It's a very definition of regentrification. But before that, people still think you hear Brooklyn and you hear certain neighborhoods, and it automatically conjures something to your brain. And then when you go to that area nowadays and you see it, and it's like, oh shit. Like it's
true.
cleaned up houses. This is a neighborhood. This isn't a what you would imagine. Even out here in Harlem right now, it's big.
Yeah.
You go through 125 or on the east side, so all that shit is changing.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah,
They just closed down the big path mark over here, all that.
Yeah.
Gonna put up high rises. So
Yeah.
I'm very familiar. I got family out here in WAG. Shout out everybody in Harlem, all that. So I got people all over. I'm from New York City. I got people all over the city.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, but particularly in my neighborhood, like growing up in the Lower East Side, it was I didn't really encounter like racism and shit. Like everybody was such a mixing pot. Like Lower East Side always had that.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Because remember, you had like the village down there. You had
Chinatown.
Yeah, so I never introduced to having more of an open mind back then because of my neighborhood than other dudes. Because again, you had the village, so I used to see like the crazy punk rock dudes and all the gay people. Or remember back in the days in the 80s.
You've been seeing.
That shit was crazy.
See,
Washington
now,
Square Park,
exactly.
all that shit. You know what I mean? So when I was a little goon, you know, we used to run around, we used to do shit, you know what I mean? So, but I was exposed to those types of, those different cultures, you know what I mean? Very, very early on.
Yeah, that's true. Because down there, like you said, y'all all...
It was very different, you know, but that's where all the clubs were, that's where it was popping, all of the culture, all the artistry, the things that are now that are glorified as far as being artsy communities and stuff like that, that was very prevalent back then. So, I got exposed to, you know, the different styles and you know, from the extreme to the subtle, you know, very early on.
Yeah, you're right when you say that, because I'm thinking like growing up in Harlem, it was just blacks. Yeah, it's just us. So
but we had Spanish Harlem.
No, hold on, I'm gonna get to that. But we got the East and the West though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the Spanish brothers was in El Barrio. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Spanish, because that's why they call it Spanish Harlem. Mm-hmm. And we was over here. But it was like sections, you know what I'm saying? You know, they come on, we come on, but with no beef enough, but it was sections. Like Lower East Side was like a melting pot. But what my whole point is, what I'm trying to say, what Doc is saying is that we didn't go downtown like that. You know what I'm saying? We just stayed in where we was at, like you saying, you stayed around your little area and stuff, and that's what we saw. Right, but I'm just saying, but as far as I didn't know about LES like that, I didn't know about the Upper West Side. I thought the Upper West Side was just Jews, you know what I'm saying? So I had a basketball game down there real quick, and I was hot one day, and I tell the story all the time. I think I scored like 40-something points. I just couldn't miss it. Just kept feeding me. And after the game, the dude chased me with a gun. I'm saying in the Upper West Side, dude chased me with a gun. Was trying to shoot me because I heard he gambled on the game, and being that I won the game, he chased me. Wow. Older dude, I was a kid. I'm running through. It wasn't for, you know, we zigzagged through them cars. He would hit me because he was trying to get me. But my whole point is that I'm stereotyping downtown, you know what I'm saying, Doc? I'm thinking that Upper West Side, they ain't built like that. And they trying to kill me. But in LES, like you said, that melting pot, y'all got a different outlook. So you might see some hood, but then you might see some, this potential, you know what? I might could do something real good in my life. I'll pay you to see that.
They got Little Italy.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on, Chinatown had the gangs.
Yeah.
Little Italy had the mafia.
So yeah, and I definitely like they had the Centenarios feast. That was always big. So as a young kid, you would go over there and get introduced to that culture and stuff like that. And the Asians, Chinatown was right there. So we used to run through Chinatown a lot, you know, doing mischief shit and all that. Came across the street gangs, came across a lot of stuff like that as a kid, you know, rough out and growing up in the Lower East Side.
Y'all got a little taste of everything.
Yeah, I would tend to say that. And then, you know, like when I would move to the Bronx, I moved to the Bronx, but I moved to Brooklyn or whatever, you know, we moving. It's the 80s and you're moving around, you know what I mean? But I would always find my way back to Lower East Side. That's where my roots was. That's where ultimately my whole family was. Right. I mean, all my real friends, like first school and first girlfriends, all that just was, you know, that's where I've always been. And later on in life, you know, eventually, you know, being in the streets, you know, I'm in prison, and you know that LES became even like a stronger thing in prison. I mean, you identify with people like Brooklyn, you identify where you're from, you know what I mean? When you're away, you know what I mean?
Let's get into that. So you was in LES, started getting some money.
Yes.
Caught a case.
Yeah, but the case, my case
let's
really didn't have nothing to do, unfortunately, with what I was doing in the streets. Okay, so I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, so you know what the Lower East Side, Harlem, you know, the city is like, New York City is like, there's a lot of money, right? You know, a lot of drugs and stuff, so open drug market, etc. So I was a part of a young group of young dudes. We started getting real crack money early in the early 90s, you know, 90, 91, we started selling crack or whatever, so started getting money, you know, so started to identify with that. And I was a young dude, already had an apartment by the time I was 15 years old, you know what I mean? So I was doing a few things. I had an incident prior. I had, you know, never was scathed, like the brother who was on your show before, he said he never got locked up, really like that, but some people, very, very few leave the streets unscathed. You know what I mean? And very early on, I got caught up, and I wound up doing a lot of time for that. You know what I mean? So
How much time you do?
ultimately, I wound up doing 24 years.
Straight.
Yeah, straight. But it had nothing to do with like the streets. And it took a long time for me to reconcile with that, you know, because you know you go through stages when you're a young kid and you get locked up very early on. You gotta as a part of coping, you just deny certain things, right? So I had to come to terms with you know, being a young man, coming to prison so early. I was 17 years old. Getting sentenced to 17 years to life, and then you know, figuring out what that means along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then knowing that I would say I was in the streets. If I was over drug territory or beef or something like that, it would have been easier for me to connect with, because that was my criminal element. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it had nothing really to do with that. It was really a bullshit incident that spilled over, an argument, egos, you know, reputations, I guess, whatever, and it spilled over, and someone lost their life behind it.
Right.
And for that, you know, I spent the majority of my youth and my whole youth and my.
So how was being 17, got sentenced to 17 to life? It looked like you.
It was a fucking tragic comedy, to be honest with you, because the judge so I'm a young kid. I'm first being introduced to Rikers Island. You know what I mean? So you know, the island back in the days, and night the island was crazy. You know what I mean? So just being introduced to Rikers Island at that age, you know, was epic. You know what I mean? Like, this is because you hear so much, and you come into the island now, and you know, when you get there, the pressure tactics and the scare tactics, and they don't even have to put that in play, because you already hear it, you know it, you smell it, you feel it, the fucking fear, the aggression, that shit permeates. But we young, we don't know these words, we can't describe this shit. I want to be able to explain it to you the way I can now when I walk into C-74. You know what I mean?
C-74.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it was, as a young kid in the 90s, you know what I mean? It was the literal definition for me of the feeling of kill or be killed.
So you go to Rikers Island, 17 in life.
Yeah, no, well, I go to Rikers Island, and you're going to trial and all that. So now it's an education, right? And it's an education in the illest sense, because we're kids, and you maybe maybe you got an OG or whatever, he schooled you to certain this or certain that in the streets or whatever. Maybe you do have a parent that tell you certain things, stay out the streets or whatever. But no one who grows up in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, New York City, the boroughs, gets a legal education.
Right.
No one understands the legal terminologies that you're about to hear and be confronted, bombarded with, assaulted with. And these people, as if you knowingly understand. You know what I mean? A lot of us don't. You know what I mean? So sitting there and understanding that this was a fight for my life, and having to understand legal jargon, the words, the definitions, the terminologies, that these people are discussing my life like if I'm not even standing there, I'm not even sitting there. You know what I mean? With these words. And
Just a number, man.
Yeah, most people will sit there, and I've seen my peers will sit there, and they'll just, that shit will go right by them, and this is your life.
Yeah.
They're using numbers like 15, 18, 7, 15
Football,
to life, 24 to life. They're using numbers like this. So that was hard. That was hard for me to learn, to try to train my young, ignorant mind to that. You know what I mean? To reading law. And then there's no one to teach you that shit. You go to a law library, and someone your age who just been there a couple of months longer than you throws you a book. You know what I mean? You have to learn. You have to teach yourself. So I started to try to figure out, you know, as much as I understood, as much as I could in my case. I wound up going to trial, of course. I went to trial. I wound up blowing trial after you know, my whole process. And I understood a lot. I learned a lot.
What was your cop out?
Oh, my cop out was 15 years to life. Okay, so this is the tragic comedy part, right? So my cop out was 15 years to life for murder in the second degree. That's those are the lowest they can give you, unless they give you a cop, unless you're willing to take, they drop it to a lesser charge. So for murder in the second degree, it was 15 years to life. If you blow trial, the maximum is 25 to life, right? And oftentimes it's like it's a quid pro quo kind of thing, the unwritten rule that if you do go to trial, you make the city spare that expense. They automatically you're gonna get 25 automatic. You know what I mean? You'll blow, and they'll give you the bonuses, as you would say. But I did it. So I went there, put up a good case, a fight, or whatever, and during the case or whatever, but ultimately found guilty. And the judge, her name was Janita Bing Newton. I don't know what she was thinking, but she told me during sentencing, she's like, Mr. Cologne, I see, you know, that it was actually on my 18th birthday. And she was like, I see it's today, and my 19th. And she was like, you've been on maybe 2 years now. She was like, so, you know, now you've gone to trial, so I'm going to sentence you to the same amount of years in prison to hopefully get your life together that you had out here on the streets to ruin it. Those were her exact words, right? So, so you know, quickly, you know, I still am desperate, hoping for something. Some young kids sitting there still trying to, you know, internalize this shit, process it, and I'm thinking, okay, well, damn, I ain't always been bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? I need to start getting in trouble. Like, you know, what's she gonna do here during the sentencing? Because my mind, my young mind is dealing with the fear of that and blocking it out, and also with the little shit that I've read. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, does she have the power to bring me below this? I'm trying to run this shit through my head real quick anyway. She tells me, yes, well, I'm gonna give you this. So I'm sentencing you to 17 years to life. I'm gonna sentence you 17 years to life because the equivalent you
came in
at 17 years old.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go over 17 years, and that's what I was ultimately sentenced to 17 years to life. Now, when you get into prison, you know, they don't teach you how, you know, what that's gonna be like. You know, so now you're a young man, and like others, like many, I'm a young man. I'm confused. I'm scared. You know, I wouldn't have admitted it then, but I'm scared. I don't even know how to fucking process that. I got 17 years to do. I mean, that's my whole life. So at that point, up to that point, you know what I mean? So I can't even process that shit. I know that, I know what I think I'm supposed to know about going up north. And that's, you know, if somebody jail stuff, the things you hear, you pick up here and there, that warps your mind, your perception, that just feeds on the ignorance, the fear, the violence, the hostility, the prey mentality, that whole thing. You know what I mean? So the predator mentality, rather. And you know, it was just it was a process, bro. It's a lot of ups and downs. You know what I'm saying? But nothing prepares you to be sentenced to 17 years to life.
So you kept getting hit at the board?
Yes, I kept getting hit at the board because, again, growing pains now. So you take a kid, ultimately, you take somebody, you sentence them to prison, committed a violent crime, okay, you put them in prison, and then essentially you leave them there. And there's programs and stuff, and I will say this towards the latter part of my bid, other people got politically, other people came to bear, and it has changed a lot. There's more of a program-oriented emphasis and all that different stuff now, right? But in my first 10, 15 years of my bid, it wasn't like that. They threw you in the fucking yard, like, and that was it. Imagine you being 18 years old going to Clinton, and you all the way in Clinton looking at these big, that shit is, they just send you back to the fucking Stone Ages, the way the yard looks. You know what I mean? So, I'm dead ass. You know what I mean? So, but again, then you try to assimilate like anything else. Anywhere else you go, in high school, and you see anywhere you see that male dynamic, you know what I mean? Who can upmanship, you know, one-upsmanship, you know what I mean? Who can do one better? It's in prison as well. The only thing is that it's uber violent. So the things that one are doing, what's being praised is shit that ultimately winds you staying in prison more. To answer your question, I was sentenced to 17 years to life, but I wound up doing 24. I did 24 due to disciplinary, rampant disciplinary shit.
So I see they had you labeled as a rat hunter.
Yes.
What's a rat hunter?
It's a jail gang. We don't identify with ourselves as a gang in that traditional sense. When you think of a gang, something automatically comes to mind. You know what I mean? And you think of what would be like the most obvious, the Bloods, the Crips, or like Kings, or sometimes even the God bodies, or the Muslims, how they move. You know what I mean? They may have different labels or whatever, but you usually have like a hierarchy or a structure, or a command structure. You know, that kind of thing. They have lessons and things of that nature that they pass down to one another. We don't do none of that. We don't.
So what's a rat hunter? What rat hunter?
Rat hunter started in Brooklyn House. It started in Brooklyn House. I believe it was like 83, 84. It started in Brooklyn House.
It started in the 80s?
Yeah, it actually started. It was in Brooklyn House, and it was some bros, let him rest in peace, T45 and Dino. They were the first individuals. So you got to remember, in the 70s, New York City gang culture was heavily influenced by bike culture. So you had like the Savage Nomads, and you had like those, the
spades,
black
and all that.
spades.
Yeah.
So that was biker culture heavily influenced that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Warlords, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Chingalings,
Yeah,
all them dudes
yeah.
were, or much of early gang culture was influenced by that, right? So these dudes came from that kind of influence or whatever, and apparently they were locked up in Brooklyn House. And you came through from the same neighborhood kind of thing, you know what I mean? Maybe have ran from different gangs or whatever, and that was actually the case. And but the commonality was that somebody was a rat, and they told somebody that we knew, whatever. So it became within, he's up there with you, he's up there with you, let's get him, and then they got him,
Right.
and it just went from there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it was actually just one dude trying to get somebody else who told on his man.
So rat hunters go after snitches.
Yeah, basically that's how it started.
And it started in '83.
And it started there. It started in Brooklyn House, and then, but again, it was just amongst small dudes. It was a small thing amongst just us. You know what I mean? Our peoples.
With the
And
membership,
then one thing led to another, and then now other individuals get involved. Now you're up north, and it became other things. Like so, individuals, you're up north, though. So there's drugs involved. There's a whole bunch of things. There's things that happen in the yard that dictate, the flow and the pace of living in prison, and the rat hunters have a very big influence.
But mainly the rat hunters go after, from my understanding, they go after snitches.
Yes.
They find somebody telling they gonna go, they're told they gonna go see them.
Because the average dude who's a rat hunter has a lot of time. Right. So it's not like you could just join. It's not like that. It's not like that. You know what I mean? So chances are, if you're around and you've already been in jail for like 10 years, and you got your own reputation as a stand-up individual, well respected. Like if it comes down to it, your gun is gonna go off, but you're a leader of men for the most part in your own right. You know what I mean? And it's like I see in my brother what I want to. I see in myself or what I want to be. Right. So essentially, you're a stand-up dude. You have a good reputation. And it lends itself to that. So, and that's how we typically choose our own in that way. But you can't go and hit somebody. I do that.
Right.
I'm not afraid. You can't impress like most individuals. They'll go and they'll stab someone or cut someone or whatever, and that's not gonna move me because I do that.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna go off for when it comes to violence or whatever. We're gonna do that. You know what I mean? So that's sometimes the most effective smoke screen.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? But for the most part, it's good dudes, beautiful men. All have a lot of time in and time to do. You know what I mean? If you know anyone, for the most part, they got 20 plus years in and decades still to do whatever. I'm fortunate to be. I was one of the youngest at the time. It's a blessing to the family. Like I said, beautiful men, hard men, stern men, dangerous men, but fair in their own ways and shit. But yeah, man, we here. And anybody that been in the state, I'm in the country, but anybody that been in the state, again, they know. Because we're not like, when you talk about gangs in New York State prison, they bang because they bang with like gang shit. Like just because you're that gang shit, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the prison system and technically anyone will consider it that, right? But we don't move like that.
Yeah.
We don't have like, that's our, and we don't do that. Like if you
No,
violate whoever you are, you're gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? If you play with that bag, like you're gonna respect the hammer, you know what I mean, or the dollar, like. And pretty much that's what was usually from prison to feeding their family.
Meaning that like rat hunters wasn't just fucking up anybody.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? They was respectful, honorable dudes, stood up like you said at time. But if a dude came through, whether he was on his case or somebody else's case, it didn't matter. And they found he was hot.
They produced that he got black and white.
Yeah, he got
listen,
right.
But non-citizen dudes would do that. And then it became a thing where individuals would put, if it's what this dude told on me, he show you black and white, they put contracts out on them. And it becomes there's an economic incentive to it as well later on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And of course, down the line things, you get people saying this, that, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, that's the history of the rat hunters. And I will say this as far as prison is concerned, not just because I deal with them, but if by man for man in the prison system in New York State, they are the smallest number of individuals, and they're the strongest by far. Two rat hunters in the whole jail will run the fucking whole yard.
Yeah, people fear the rat hunters. When they hear the dudes around, they be trying to move out the way.
And I'm not saying this is my dudes, but that's because they stand up.
That's real talk, though. That's real talk.
The one knock is dudes got a lot of time, so everybody's dealing with their own measure of escapism. So some motherfuckers get fucked with the bag, You know what I mean? They do this, whatever the case may be. But, you know, stand-up dudes, you can't be a rat, don't fuck with chumps, we don't do that type of stuff. You know what I mean? To each his own. You know, everybody's trying to feed their families. You know, move right in here and be dealt with fairly. If you get out of line, then you're gonna be dealt with.
And like you said, the smallest group is the dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need 50
You don't need
dudes. You don't
50,
need 50 dudes to be in the way. You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean?
don't need to be in the way.
Yeah, you don't need 50 dudes to be in the way. Those sow the seeds for your
A lot of that
ascension.
hunters was feared too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but and I would say this again, not just because why? Because there's a thing, man, like that the way you handle certain things, and everything is a spectacle, everything is optics, right? So if there's 5, 6 guys over there, and these guys are you know, if there's 5 blood dudes over there, cryptos, whoever, and not to single anyone out, but anyone could be there, and do you see this one individual come, and you know, these are all serious individuals, you have no reason to doubt that this kid's not gonna get serious in a heartbeat. And then you see one individual approach these dudes and back them down by himself. You know, and if it comes to it, take out a knife and stab these and chase them all around. That's gonna reverberate through the fucking prison system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you see a man standing from another man, and again, these are the barbaric things, but we're talking about it in a different time.
Yeah, different.
You know, when in Rome, man. You know what I'm saying? So if you see a dude, you know, and he's known for playing with his knife and stabbing dudes, but that same individual a punch a CO in the face, he's not just gonna approach you in a hostile and aggressive way. He's gonna deal with the police the same way. You dig what I'm saying? Any man who disrespects him on a level he feels, you know, warrants that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't glorify that stuff, and not just to say violence, but there's many individuals that fit that bill. You know what I mean? But in terms of, like, I guess again, using the term New York State prison gangs or whatever, they are the smallest. They have one of the longest histories, and they're good men. They're good men. They're stand-up dudes.
So you knew OG Mack?
Yes, I knew OG Mack. I knew OG Mack from a little before. I know a lot of individuals when they first came through the island, and before they reached prominence, before he became notorious or whatever. I knew him. Yes.
You have any issues with him?
No, actually, I didn't. We had a few discussions. If you can imagine, we were in the box. We were in Comstock at the time, and I was the porter on the gallery. So, you know, people, you got to move. You know, you're there for the people. You're out there. You know, you pass things here and there. And I had a number of very intelligent. He was just very intelligent brother. I know the stuff. I was there. I was present when all the rumors started to come out from the very beginning. I was in the jail. I was in Comstock. I was in B Block when all of it started to surface. The rumors, when they were just rumors about him being a rat, and having turning evidence off and some giving evidence to some of his peoples. But prior to that, like I had sat in front of you. You have to sit. If you're in prison, you have to sit across from. If you have an opportunity to sit across from someone like this and talk to him, you do. And the reason why you do it is fuck all the gangs, fuck all this, because he's a man who controls thousands of men. So they're at the very least is a very worthy adversary or a friend.
Right.
You know what I mean? So and if he turns to be a friend, he's a valuable one at that, because again, he commands men.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I sat down. Like I said, I was a porter, so I would pull up and I would chop it up with home. You know what I mean? Yo, what's up? What's good with you? And we would talk, and he was always reading books and shit. He would give me a book, whatever. We'd go back and forth. But you know, when it surfaced, you know, it took some time, you know, and for it to come out, and you know, it is what it is at this point. But yes, I did know OG Mack, and I did this.
So I'm aware that you and China Mack had started a label together.
Well, I mean, that's a whole different story. But okay, so you're in
But
prison.
before we get in there, let me ask you, because I'm going to ask you something that leads before that. So after, that's a lot of time, for 24 years. When you came out, and I saw some pictures where you was getting visits and all that, you had some love in the streets and all that. So when you came home after doing 24 years, because 24 years is no joke straight. Let's keep it 100. How did you feel like coming back into society? Then let's go into that. You know, how did you feel, man? You're like, damn, I got freedom.
Well, I will tell you this, and this is something that I keep telling myself now. Like, I believe, you get through prison, you have to believe, right? Something, whatever your God is, that's what it gets you through, right? you don't realize, you don't know that you get through. You just get through.
Mhm.
You know, you just get through, and you hope that you, even in spite of your surroundings, or maybe even because of it, that you find some kind of humanity in yourself, because you could come out of there a fucking animal.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've done mean things, violent things to people. I've justified it by saying that these are people that they deserve that shit. They earned it. Like, I never did nothing. I never prayed on the week. I never, you know what I mean? But still, nonetheless. And because of those things, I wound up staying in prison longer.
Right.
I was sentenced to 17 years, and I wound up doing 24 because for disciplinary reasons. So finally, then there's the whole parole board thing. So now, at some point, you know, you start like all growth processes, man. Like, you know, you're a young kid, you come to jail, you're lashing out at the fucking world.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In every form of fashion, shit you can't even comprehend, bro. Why you're so angry? Why you did what you did? You haven't processed that, like leaving your family, like all those things are gone now, right? Things you say you didn't need because you was being a little man running around the street, you know, that whole shit. I mean, and now you're here with all this time, and in jail, you start to, who do I become?
Right.
Like, what the fuck do I do? You know, do you try to continue to identify who you once were?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't do that. You can't keep living through pictures of when you had the, you know, that time is passing, bro. You know what I mean? You can't keep doing that.
Yeah, this ain't going down.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So what are you doing? You'll be surprised, bro, how sad it is that you have many brothers, good brothers, that's what they do. They pass their time, days, weeks, months, fucking years, decades pass, and they're stuck in trying, because it's a defense mechanism. You know, it's cool. So one of the reasons why I figured that out is because I learned how the fuck am I gonna get out of here? Like, I always kept a vision for some reason, even though it was so far away. Like, how the fuck I'm gonna get out of here? What I'm gonna be when I get out of here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always fancied myself like a smart dude, being able to take advantage of my surroundings and whatever. So I figured that. So I started studying, bro. I started to read. And I didn't just read distraction. The main topics in fucking prison are sports, music, you know what I mean? Bullshit, hood novels, like shit like that. I fucking despise all that. I never read none of that. You know what I mean? If I read a book, I read, you know, an educational book, a self-help book, a business magazine, anything along those lines that I could, you know, and sometimes I didn't even have people really have conversations with about these things. But I just always wished that I would when the time came. So, you know, I started going to the parole board. After 17 years, I started going to the parole board, and of course they keep hitting me for, oh, you stabbed this dude in 1993, or you assaulted an officer in 1997, and here it is in 2009, and they still going back there. They're not even talking about the crime. Right. They're talking about just the disciplinary shit. You know what I mean? Right. And they hit me for that, and then after they hit me like twice for that, after 4 years of getting hit with that, then now they're talking about the nature of the crime, and they want to hit me for that. Meanwhile, during that time, I separated from a lot of the violent stuff. I started focusing more on my own education. I was hustling in jail, so selling drugs in jail. Jail in so many ways mirrors the streets, you know, the black market, the whole shit. I mean, so, and I would take my little earnings and I would pay for my college correspondence course. So I would have people send it out, whatever, and I started paying for my own correspondence course, and I started doing college. And you know, it was slow, and every time I would find someone to help, you know, they would help me with a semester or whatever the case may be, but for the most part, I paid my way through. And I got my degrees. I graduated with, I was valedictorian. I also had my associate's degree. So at the end of it, so I was able to go to the parole board. After they kept reducing me, I was able to go to the parole board and be like, okay, so listen, yeah, you keep talking, and I challenged them actually. I was like, okay, you just keep talking about everything that I did then, these stabbings, this murder, and also, but you just have yet on record to identify that I've completed college. I haven't had disciplinary issues in 5 years. You know, I've completed college, I've completed all manner of programs that you do. I teach classes. At the time, I was teaching a real estate class and stuff. So I was involved in a lot of other like alternative little programs in print to try to build a better chance to go to the board, and they just kept reducing me, like a lot of brothers go through. But eventually, you know, I won my freedom, and when I won my freedom, you know, now here it is. All the book smarts, I'm gonna talk the shit when I go out there. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. This is how it's gonna be, and all that. And for me, everything that I said I guess this is the long way to answer your question. Everything that I thought was gonna happen, or how I thought things were gonna be, that shit got challenged and turned upside down multiple times. You know what I'm saying?
So now you came home. You know, you see your family. You got your freedom. So now you change your life. You turn your life around, so to speak.
Well, I came out with that. I wasn't really a burden to my family. I pretty much did my bit on my own.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wasn't one of them dudes asking my family for packages and all that shit. I got it how I lived. You know what I'm saying? I got it when I was in the streets. You know, my family was like, yo, go to school, stay out the streets, right? They at least told me that. I chose the streets. So when because I would wind up in jail, so they told me, because if you go in the streets, you're gonna land in jail. So when that happened, whatever came with that, I held it down. I never called them. I didn't call mommy and ask them for nothing. I didn't call them to do none of that. I got my gun and I got it how I lived. The same way I got it in the streets, I got it in the yard. I mean, and again, that created a bigger hole for myself. You know what I mean? So when I came home, I had stacks of bread, you know what I mean? And I was able to have a little something to come home. But I didn't come home thinking like, oh, I'm coming home to my family. I'm going to my... They have children who don't know me. They have relationships with people. Like, you know, how was my sister gonna tell me, yo, come stay in my house, and you got a 5-year-old son with her, and I don't even really know you.
Right.
There's a man that lives in her house. There's a whole household structure there. To just bring someone in to that is very difficult.
It's tough.
So I ran into a lot of that, like family members wanting out of nowhere, just I guess because it was the right thing to do, or they thought to offer me to come in, but it was completely uncomfortable for me to just come into someone's home and you know, I needed time to adjust for myself. You know what I mean? So it was very difficult the first, like, to transition. I thought I had it. I thought you couldn't tell me I talk slick. You couldn't tell me I didn't fucking cross my T's and dot the I's. You couldn't tell me that. But slowly but surely, you know, it wore on me when things didn't go according to plan. Immediately, like I started to, like, you know, get certain guessings, like basic things that you go through at growing pains from the age of being 15 or 20 to 25, but you become somebody different. Those things affect you in a different way. You build coping mechanisms to deal with everyday life stressors or problems. And I wasn't able to do that. You know, I was always on hyper go all the time. Like, you say the wrong thing to me in jail, and I put a knife through your fucking head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and still be very calm and poised. That, you know, I wouldn't have to turn into a savage to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because that was just part of the course. So I had to learn coming out here that there was going to be different things that were required of me. I had to respond differently to different things. So I wanted to expose myself to different shit. So my first, like, 6 months, I would do a lot of museums. I would go to a lot of museums. I would go to a lot of fucking galleries and stuff like that. I started to really try to immerse myself in different types of cultures. You know what I mean? Around the city and shit. And apply certain things that I've always wanted to do. When I was up north, I fancied getting into photography one time during the course of 24 years. And here was an opportunity to do it, so I did it. I was into the gallery scene. I met people. I started getting invited to shows and to collaborate on shows. You know what I mean? So it opened up a lot of different doors for me than I thought. You know what I mean? Or that I would have hoped to open. It's just a completely different challenge.
So tell the viewers what you're doing right now, you know, because you have an amazing story. You grew up not poor, but you grew up rough, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, you went to jail in an early age. You would survive it, you came out, you're home, you got your freedom back. So tell everybody the stuff that you got going on now, the transition. What you doing?
Ask me a question.
I asked you about, cause I heard you and China Mack had a record.
Right, there you go.
Okay, so, yes, China Mack, salute to China Mack.
Salute China.
So, one of the things I did while doing my college course and everything, you know, I started to get involved in all this stuff. So parole would be like, okay, this guy's done enough, right? Let him go. Like you know, I tell you all the time, maybe everyone ever seen like the movie Shawshank Redemption. There's that one part where he's like, yo, whatever the fuck you gonna do, you was gonna do. Like, I'm done with it already. I swear, bro, not to be dramatic, but it was like that. That was like my attitude and shit. So one of the things I started getting into was like a business, right? And doing my business course, I had to do a project on an emerging demographic and the business potential for that emerging demographic. So I chose the Asian markets. And the reason why I chose the Asian market, I had to give them a reason why I wanted to do the Asian markets. So once I provided them with that reason, which basically the gist of it was that, you know, if you look at them, they qualify as emerging market. They're politically on all fronts, economically, politically, socially. They have their movements, right? And you can see, you have to give them an example of it. But anyway, so I learned a lot doing that, like as far as projections and stuff like that. And so, but ultimately it was just a business concept. I just needed to find the right piece, right? So it just so happened one day, this is how I meet China Mack. China Mack was in the same prison I was in at the time. This is later on in the bid, so I'm all chilled and stuff like that, whatever. And he was from the neighborhood, you know, again, oh, he's from Lower East Side. Oh, he's from Lower East Side. That's, again, it's still, all these years later, it comes full circle. So we met, we started talking about things or whatever. And I had heard through the facility that this kid was nice and rhyming. But he really didn't, he wasn't pursuing it because, you know, he was, I'm gonna be too old when I get out, whatever the case may be. It's a young man's game thing, you know, the money behind it, you know, it's a lot of BS. So, but I looked at it from a purely business perspective, and I saw an emerging market that needs their heroes, so to speak, and everyone needs their heroes in their respective, you know, categories. You know what I mean? For instance, you know, remember if you was out in the city back there? Remember a couple years ago when Jeremy Lin was playing with the Knicks? Right. Remember all that? That insanity. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was amazing.
The reason why that was because in New York City, you grew up your whole life in New York City, and there's nearly 1 million Asians in New York City, and you never see them unless you go to Flushing or you go specifically to Chinatown. Although now it's more prevalent with the regentrification in a lot of the neighborhoods throughout the Bronx, throughout Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. But they're there. But it took the right thing to bring them out. They had to see someone that looks like them, someone that represents them.
They got identified with.
Yeah, exactly. So once they saw that, they came out, and it didn't matter. Or I was Korean, Vietnamese. I see someone that looks like me at the highest stage in the NBA in New York City, and he gets busy. You know what I mean? So it just gave a whole different, not only just a demographic, but a generation, youthful Asians, young youth, the youth Asian identify with that, and overall, so it was huge, right? So I seen that same kind of dynamic, but with like rap music and other areas in industry. You know what I mean? Where the youth are looking, there's a new type of young Asian American, and he's not so caught up with the traditional stuff. You know what I mean? He's more heavily influenced by hip hop and rap and you'll never hear it, but alcoholism, drug abuse, you know, teen pregnancy, homelessness, poor schools. They suffer from those same things as well. You know what I mean? And in Mack and in China Mack's music, he told that story. And I had not heard that. I had never heard that.
So that's
story.
what made you want to hook up with him?
Yeah, so that I seen the talent, and my thing was more business. I was studying how to open companies, so I would do mock companies. I was in prison, I didn't have nothing to do, so I would grab something from the Wall Street Journal, and I would just create a file, and I would just build a whole company and follow it. Like I would get on the Wall Street Journal, follow stock options on it. I was really fucking with BlackRock, which was a big.
BlackRock,
It's a big commercial. So I would really follow them, and I would follow a lot of other
Blackstone, BlackRock.
Yeah. So I would really do that, and just to keep me, you know, fresh and shit like that. So, but really, all I was looking for was a product. As a businessman, it doesn't matter what it is. It's a product or a service. That's it. And then there's supply and demand. So I looked at it that way, and I tried to say, well, there's a market for this product that you can produce. Right. And we set about trying to get up the money to. He was short. He had like 16 months or some shit to go home. So we was like, yo, bro, I just met him. So I was like, yo, why don't we just see if we can put some resources together, put something to the side, and in the meantime, you know, we have some people who do what we can. So we was hustling in jail. We was selling drugs, and we was doing it big. And that funded the whole initial part of the label. at least the exploratory part of it. So we was able to get like the domain names, shop the domain names. We was able to register our LLC. We was able to do all that from prison before we even got home. We was able to do all that shit from prison. And so we secured those names, secured everything. We came up with the label. We came up with the structure of it, the logo. We came up with everything while we were in prison. And we were hustling, and we got up a nice piece of bread. And then it just so happened he got some time given back to him. That's like the whole process, right? Good time type of thing. He got it given back, and I think it was like 11 months. So it took him from like having a year left to having like 60 days. So that was a shock in of itself. So he wound up, coming home, and the bread was sitting in an account. He took that bread and he went and he solidified everything with the label, and he started about the work to build Red Money Records and to build his content actually, and to learn how to do that, because his story as well. We're looking at a lot of time or whatever. So to learn how to be an artist, learn how to be a professional was growing pains in of itself for him and myself. But he's on parole, I'm on parole. And they were making issues because as we started to gain some credibility, we started doing a lot of shows around the city. Last summer we had the city, every club we was in, every club.
Oh, see, I still got the label.
Every strip club. I'm no longer a part. The label's still is up. He's the artist. Like I said, I ran into a lot of parole issues with the traveling, and then he's on parole and I'm on parole. So they was making it very, very, very difficult for me. It wasn't worth my feel. I wound up getting violated. I was in a big music. It actually came out in the news. There's a big video shoot. I had like 300 people come out there, all types of cars, everything. And NYPD didn't agree with it too much. And they had the helicopters out there on us and all that. It was crazy. But I wound up getting violated because of that. And during the hearing, I presented all my business documents, told them these are not two dudes sitting here playing with fucking camera phones. You know what I mean? I had a full crew out there. I had 3 camera crews, I had backup crews, you know what I mean? I had logistics dudes, I had everything running, you know what I mean? And I was able to get these dudes to give me signed documentation stating their letterhead and their company logos, to the effect that this is what they were doing. They were paid for a service and stuff like that. So, that helped me. But in that course of doing that, you're sitting up on Rikers Island for 60 days. Like, who's gonna pay your rent? Who's gonna pay your rent? Who's gonna take care of your bills? Who's gonna do all that? You know what I'm saying? So I lost a lot during that time, and it just, at this point, it was better for us to part ways temporarily and whatever, because it's just not. I can't do this and it's gonna put me in jail. I mean, PO's not jacking me going out of state and going and staying late nights in clubs. And that's primarily when you practice your trade, you know what I mean? So they had a lot of issues with that, and they made it very difficult for me. So I had to pull back from that. But salute to Red Money, salute to China Mack and them dudes. Follow my boy. He's New York City. He talk the talk. You know what I mean?
He's doing his thing out here.
Yeah, he's definitely doing his thing. But I was definitely instrumental in the very early beginnings of putting the company together, the ideas, in terms of his first 2-3 projects. Very, very much involved.
Great story, man.
Yeah, man. Because
Definitely a great story.
you're doing something right. This is what I'm getting. You making some positive waves out here.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? You blowing up. And then they want to throw a monkey wrench on you.
But then again, I ain't gonna front, because again, prison doesn't teach you resilience. You know what I mean? The way you need it to be out here. You know what I mean? It doesn't teach you perseverance. You have to find that shit, bro. You have to find that shit in something else. You know what I mean? And right here, like right now, for instance, while I was doing what I was doing, I happened to meet people, right? You meet people and you network. And I met a real beautiful dude, man. He happened to own his own realtor company. You know what I mean? And just through casual conversation, now he supported me to get. I'm currently starting to get my realtor license. You know what I mean? He's sponsoring me, because when you're on parole and you're a felon
Yeah.
in New York City, there's certain licenses you can't have
Right.
unless you gotta go through mad shit to
Yeah,
get it, right?
yeah.
So, but unless one of the things to circumvent all that is to have a sponsor. And he's an industry sponsor. He has his broker license for over 13 years. I go on, and so I be all over, South Side, North Side, all over the Lower East Side, showing apartments, beautiful apartments, high-end luxury apartments. So it was a blessing in that sense. You know what I mean? I was able to develop that part of an interest that I have as well. You know what I mean? So, you know, if it ain't one thing, it's gonna be another.
Exactly.
I mean,
You got any links that they can find out that, you know, people need to, like, they could actually talk to you?
like I said, right now, because of the issues that I have with parole and stuff,
Stay
like
low.
I stay low off the
Stay
and
low.
I'm in school right now, trying to get my license and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? But definitely, you know, the link, the beat.
The
139, big, you know, this was dope. This was dope. So y'all can definitely find me. They can see me here, right?
Yeah, it is. They can definitely see you.
right here.
They can see you right here. He around
right?
somewhere.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm
Making
here.
moves.
We here. Now, what I said, like, it's just a temporary pause for a better comeback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotta get these people off my back, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I seen the content. I seen your show. The
Yeah.
suits you do. You got some
Thanks.
good characters there.
Yeah,
Good
tonight,
content. I definitely
appreciate
see
you.
you. Shout out
Appreciate you.
to my boy Face because
Yeah, yeah.
he's a character.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Definitely. You know what I mean? So I see where your dudes is going, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'm definitely gonna spread the message. You know
Appreciate
what I'm
it.
saying? Facts.
Thanks.
There it is. Thanks for coming to the show.